Like, it's insane. Like, so, so yeah, I know that's supposed to be like, that's like the stereotype of zoomies. Just like, hey, bro, can you help
Yeah.
you find anything? What are we looking for? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's the expectation. And I got the complete opposite of that. Everyone was just like staring at their
That's
phone.
crazy.
And like, I don't know if it's because like, I was working at Vans, I think, at the time. So like, I just kind of looked the part already. So I don't know if I just like blended in. They didn't even notice me. They just like in corner of their eye, away from TikTok, they just thought I was like Greg from Stock or
uh,
something like that. I don't know. Like,
they probably thought you worked at the mall.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, dude,
Like,
one time I went to like a different mall when I was working at a mall. I went
uh-huh.
and worked I went to a different mall, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a store I don't go to. It was like I went to like Wiener Schnitzel or something like that,
I love
and
that.
like you work in the mall, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't even remember if I did work in the mall at that point, or if it was like just it was funny because I worked at a totally different mall. But
Just had the mall worker vibe.
just one of those scenarios, right?
Yeah.
It happens when you're like 30 years old and still, shop at the mall, still shop at like Hot Topic and Zoomies.
Yeah. No, never mind. We don't need to deep dive into we don't need to deep dive into that. I was just gonna ask about like the status of your hair by that point. Because
uh,
that would say a
mm,
lot too to people, I think. Especially Hot
um,
Topic specifically.
yeah, it was either like it is now, same style, right?
Yeah.
But it was probably pink, purple, teal, or a combination thereof,
Mm.
or blonde. I was doing like silvery blonde a lot too, and I would just kind of like did that for after I got out of the Air Force. I did that for like 9 years after that.
Yeah. For the win, episode 31. Tonight's a different episode. We're doing a bit of a internal here. I've been talking with the boys about the podcast and the state of the podcast and the plans for it moving forward. And we're at a bit of a crossroads where we're trying to figure out what's the best way to move the podcast forward. It's been 30 episodes, which is, a little bit over 30 weeks of filming, which has been really great and a lot of fun. The podcast has grown in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of things that we've grown and gotten better at. But the harsh reality and the truth is that, one, it's not gaining traction in terms of a base audience and views. And actually that's pretty much it. I was gonna say two, but everything comes from that. And so I've been, we have given it I truly believe a very honest shot as far as being consistent, as far as putting our best foot forward and not just throwing together things, but being thoughtful and trying to produce good content. And yesterday we hopped on a call to talk about it and try and figure out what's the best way to move this podcast forward. And so we talked very briefly about like some ideas on how to do that, on how to niche down, how to build an audience. Because I think if we're honest, we all, and we can get into this because that's what I want this episode to be. We can talk about a couple gaming things because some cool stuff did happen. But I thought it'd be really cool to give people an actual, like, basically behind the scenes look of this is what, like, just our process and this is what we're doing and we're trying to figure this out. I think that's more even interesting than just firing a bunch of news stories at you. And so, yeah, like all up, I think it would be interesting to take take a quick look here. I'm just going to pull up our analytics for the last, gosh, I don't even know, over half a year of doing this, and I'll just read them, the big ones, out to you guys. And then I think it'd be cool to kind of get deeper into the discussion we had yesterday and try and figure out maybe a way that we can take this thing forward. I've definitely had some thoughts about it. But I think doing this same thing over and over again, I don't think is going to work. And so I think we should switch some things up. I think we should try some different things. But what that is going to be, we will hopefully have an idea by the end of, the next 45 minutes. So we've been doing this. Let's see. We did our first episode on June 16th, 2023. And we did our latest episode last week. And so since then, we've gotten 17.8 thousand views, 1.9 thousand watch time, and the podcast has made a total of $68.86 just on AdSense revenue. Obviously, our biggest episode was the interview with Marty O'Donnell, the Halo composer. And the next biggest is actually a clip from one of our podcasts where we talk about John Mayer's secret Halo 2 song. But again, that's even with Marty. And then our next highest viewed is episode 3, where we talked about Elon Musk talking about his favorite video game. And when I say highest viewed, the Elon Musk episode has 689 views. Just to give us a very clear picture, the Marty episode has 8,658 views. So all that to say, it's been fun, and I enjoy, what we've been doing, and we enjoy talking together and shooting the breeze, and talking about these topics. And I don't have anything bad, but I think we all agree, like, we would love for this to actually grow a bit more and use our concerted effort to actually, make something. Because I'd say we haven't nailed it yet, right? We haven't nailed it, but we still made $68. And I think if we could figure out, I think there is a future for this podcast if we can figure out what that looks like and what adjustments we need to make. So that being said, I have a Google Doc open, and maybe we can just share what maybe episode 32 could look like and try and see what a good way forward would be. Again, I don't have answers or expectations, but I think we're all in agreement, that we should probably try something else, pivot a little bit. So I don't know who wants to start, and you can throw out any ideas that you had yesterday. I'm going to actually type out, write stuff down as people say it. But what are your guys' thoughts since our conversation yesterday? Is there anything that you want to double down on? Is there anything that you're maybe we should try this? I don't really want to try this. We talked about this. I don't know about that, blah, blah, blah. John, do you want to kick us off, or should I have Henry kick us off?
Probably have Henry kick us off.
All right, Henry. I know you talked about niching down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think niching down is definitely going to be key. I think the last thing the internet needs is another podcast of three dudes talking about what's happening in video games,
Right.
without it being more specific, because gaming is so large and vast now that it's a scenario of trying to market to everyone and targeting no one.
Hmm.
Um, when you use the shotgun method that we've been trying, it ends up, we'll have maybe one topic that somebody says, "Oh, that's cool," especially if it makes into a short that gets some traction, they see it. But say it's the only time we bring it up, right?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of discussion going on with Pal World constantly. In the like month it's come out, we've brought up the game one time. Um, so it's, and like someone might not care about that, right?
Right.
And so maybe they see one thing and then they won't want to continue watching. It's like, oh, it's a one-off. They tried it out
Yeah.
and they gave their opinion on it, but then they don't see like a week, 2 weeks later we're talking about it and I say I have 130 hours or something, whatever it was in the game. So it's it's what I think really should end up happening. I personally only listen to podcasts that are much more specific in their topic. Um, I would like to listen to subject matter experts in that field rather
Mm-hmm.
than three dudes, for example. Not saying like we don't know what we're talking about, because a lot of the stuff we talk
Yeah.
about,
I'd
we
say you're an
do know what we're
expert.
talking. And a lot of the stuff I am very well versed, I would say, but some of it I'm not. So I guess I
Yeah.
am a
Yeah.
bit guilty of that myself. I'm just and
Yeah. Yeah. Any ideas for the niche?
I know all three of us play Xbox, and
Yeah.
it is my primary gaming console. I have all of it, right? But I have a good PC, I have PS5, I have an Xbox, I have a Switch, and I mostly play my Xbox. Just full
Hmm.
stop, I do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that the three of us all have in common. All of us have Game Pass, and Game Pass is constantly cycling new things. I think we could at least do a segment on like
Hmm.
a feedback on what we might have done with Game Pass over the last week. Maybe it's new, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe people care? Will people not care about our gaming habits? Who knows? But we could also talk about other stuff that's going on within that realm that is more, I don't know, more vital for other people to hear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to narrow down and be like, yeah, we're an Xbox podcast now, but because we'll probably still end up talking about other stuff.
Right. But that's okay.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, but like deviating a little bit is okay. But as long as people know, like, hey, I'm subscribed to this podcast because I'm an Xbox player and I want to hear about what's going on with Xbox. And yeah, they'll deviate. Yeah, they'll tell personal anecdotes and stories related and whatever. But I know I'm going to get Xbox throughout. And what
Yeah,
you're saying, if I'm correct, is people will, I mean, we don't have any hard evidence, but I mean, I think I agree with you, is that people could watch our podcast now and be like, oh, I love Power World, let me check that out. Okay, we talked about Power World for 10 minutes, now they're talking about the FTC trial. Well, I don't want to listen to that crap. So then it's
yeah,
like,
and even
yeah,
if
we're
they
out.
try, like, if they comb through our other clips or anything, we got like a single 10-minute segment on Power World, which is a huge topic you could talk about right now.
Right.
Um, and all we did was mostly we talked about it twice. First, we only talked about the controversy of it, and then next we talked about how much time I sank into it, and
Right.
I fanboyed about it, and that's it. And same thing, like we're all big Halo players, but we've only brought up Halo
Yeah.
when Marty was on.
Well, and that's why I didn't want to even do a Halo podcast, because I think the state of the game is kind of crap anyways.
Right. And so
Like, there's not content to talk about with Halo.
Yeah, I get it. You know,
Yeah.
there is. I mean, we say it, then like Blitz cranks out a video every 2 days or whatever.
Yeah,
the heck it
but
is.
he's the only. He's like
Yeah,
one
no,
of
I
the
get
only
it
sources
because at that point
for Halo
we're just
stuff.
regurgitating.
Totally.
Feel like we're just
Yeah.
regurgitating what he because like it's because he's one of the sole biggest Halo creators, and he kind of just always just lands just about everything that's going worth talking about, and so
Yeah.
it's really hard to try to say, oh yeah, it's like I said last week, I was like, I'm just a dude, like,
Yeah.
so
And we could go down the route of like basically talking about everything that he talks about, because that's essentially
right,
what
exactly,
it would be. And we
right.
could
That's what I'm
do
saying.
that.
It'd be just regurgitating what he said.
Yeah,
So
it'd be like a deep dive into what he said.
Right, because his videos are like 6-7 minutes usually.
Yeah,
So
but again, I love Halo, right? Favorite game ever, all that jazz. I just don't know. I think I would be more interested in talking about a broader spectrum of games, which is why when we started this, I was like, yeah, I don't think just a Halo podcast has enough oomph to really, and I don't think there's enough. Halo is still one of the most popular IPs around. I do believe that, but I don't think there's enough Halo players to care to be like, I'm gonna. If we were in
Not
Halo
the,
3 Prime and we want to do a Halo podcast, I would say yes. Let's, there is a fan base there. It's all happening, but right now the scene is not at all what it is. So, all that to say, I agree with everything you've said, Henry.
so
John,
yeah.
any thoughts? Spur any thoughts?
Well, for me, I just try to think logically and make sense of things. And so when I think about YouTube and podcasts, obviously I'm not professional at this. I don't even have videos on my YouTube channel, but I see an episode that gets a lot of views, and so my immediate thought is to do something else similar to that or like that. So I think if we were able to get more guests from the gaming industry, even if it was just let's talk to an intern or a janitor or something at a studio or
That'd
something,
be
and
crazy.
kind of work
A janitor at Blizzard or something.
Just work our way up and just have guests that have worked on a game and just talk to them about the game or whatever it is, So I would whatever connections we can make, and have the same guests back on again, and say what's new after a few months or something, I think of big podcasts like the Joe Rogan podcast, he has reoccurring people that, specifically when he does his comedian podcasts or his fighting podcasts, he has the same people on and they talk about what's the latest in this thing. So
That's exactly what I was talking about with subject matter experts. It's that's who you would want to hear talk about those sort of things. And having a reoccurring person is, but he also pays them.
True.
People don't. Yeah. It's hard to get people to break away from their career, to talk to people.
I don't know. I think we can get guests though. I think people are, in my experience, people are much more happy than you'd think to just come and sit and talk about themselves for an hour.
Oh, for sure. I have friends that I have friends that worked at 343 at some point. We really wanted to, I could pull them in, but I don't think they worked on Infinite. I had some mostly artist friends. I
Yeah.
have some friends that work at ArenaNet. I've had friends that work at Valve.
Yeah.
If we want to go through this, go down your route, John, I could try because I have networked a little bit. We could try to do something more with that. I didn't know if we wanted to do interviewing all the time.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like it's kind of hard. Most time I listen to like interview podcasts, it's like a dude interviewing one or maybe two dudes versus like three interviewing one, if that makes sense. Typically, as far as like what I listen to.
Yeah.
So, um,
Right. Well, it would have to be like very organized and
Right.
mhm.
um, like run sheet out. And I wouldn't want to do it unless we had like really good, like well researched questions for them. And we were able to like send them those questions ahead of time, and so that they could come onto the podcast like prepared, um, to have a conversation about whatever we want to talk about. And so, and I think if it, if at all possible, like I think a big key is to even get people that are already like content creators and already have like some audience, and then you're able to produce a short or a clip from the podcast, tag them in it, and then if it's like good and it's like good content and it's high quality, like they'll want to share it to their
Right.
audience. So
Right.
it's like kind of using somebody else's audience to also grow your audience by having established people on. And
For
it doesn't
sure.
have to be huge names or anything, but people that are just kind of already doing what we want to do to some degree, greater success than we're having. And I think that would be a big part of it. And I think even just like more, maybe just like more promoting and like more shorts and reels and things like that, the bite-sized clips to like draw people in, I think is a big deal right now.
Yeah, I agree. Just for the record, when we do bring guests on, we haven't done a lot, but every time we've done a guest, and I don't think I've CC'd you guys on any emails, but um, that whole side of bringing guests on has actually been very organized. And Marty had questions. I think, it all happened very fast with that,
Yeah,
but
when I say organize, I
he
mean
had
like
questions like the day before that
yeah.
he could
When
look
I
at. And
when I say organize, I mean having like the episode itself like organized. So like David goes first, introduction, first
oh, right,
question.
right.
Henry takes the second question, like so that everyone's involved. It's all kind of rotating. If someone
Yeah,
chimes in, like the actual episode itself being organized
gotcha.
so that everyone's involved.
Gotcha. I just heard you mention like get them questions ahead of time, and I just wanted to make sure. Like, I know on that side. I mean, even Blue Thunder, who we did last time, he emailed me back, and he just mentioned like, "Wow, this has been amazing. You're so on top of it. This is very professional. I appreciate how the process and how you've done this." I'm like, "Hey, thanks." Like I've like treated it as such, and he's been so successful and done so well. Just to use him as an example, um, but also he's not like a millionaire streamer like Kai Sinet, like whatever. But I do believe that like if you just handle your business and like do it excellent from the get-go, people respect that, and we'll be able to land more guests. But to your point, after our conversation, I kind of slept on it. And one thing I do think we just have to include is getting more guests. Just giving a very real focus on getting more guests. Now, I'll say it's not necessarily for lack of trying, because I have sent out probably like 15 emails in the last in the last 3 months, which isn't like a ton. But, there's been a lot that I have tried to reach out to and connect with to jump on. Sorry, I need to get some water. So yes, guests, I agree. I think it might be actually really funny. I know you said it offhand, but like getting a janitor from like Blizzard, or just like, that's funny, and that's in the trenches, and that's something that no one is doing. Let's be real. But I agree to your point. I think we have to work our way up, on the guest side of things, and I get that. But what about the weeks when we, don't have guests? In a perfect world, I would love to have like a guest once a month. I realize that that's, a big ask, but if we go for, quote unquote smaller fish, I think that is a bit more feasible. How do you feel, John, about niching down with Xbox, an Xbox focus, or do you have any other ideas or thoughts on a niche focus?
No, I mean, I think niching down is a good idea. I mean, it's something I've always struggled with personally, is like never feeling like an expert or having like an expert level knowledge of something, or never feeling like I excel at like one thing in particular, like really, really well. I'm always just kind of like pretty good at that, kind of know a bit about that, but never like, yeah, this is like my lane that I'm running in. Like, I'm studying this, I'm educating myself around this. Like, this is what I'm about. I've never had that. As a gamer, I've played everything, like my whole life. And, obviously like more Xbox recently, as my like console of choice. So when stuff does come out about like a Switch game, or, I mean, there's like no PS5 games, but, or
It's
like a
just me.
PC game. Like, I
Did we
have a
lose
gaming
John?
PC
Well,
here, but it's
he
like,
broke up.
has it been like pausing for you guys every once in a while?
it paused,
It
and then your mic just dropped again. Like
Yeah,
it's only
just then.
just started.
Okay, start that over from whenever a new Switch game comes out or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever like a new Switch game comes out, or a PS5 game or something, like, I'm not playing it. I don't have a Switch. And so I don't have anything to say about any new Switch release, because it's like not on my radar. I don't care. When I had more time, I had every single console set up to multiple TVs or monitors, and I would just, whatever I wanted to play, I played. But that's just not the reality anymore. So I think for me, niching down to Microsoft's Xbox would be more comfortable.
Tell the people your gamer score. What's your gamer score?
I mean, there's a lot you can do within Microsoft and Xbox. I mean, my gamer score is 187,000
Woo!
right now.
Not
so
bad.
like you could talk. I would be cool to like do like a weekly Game Pass segment.
Yeah.
Right now I got notifications from an hour ago that a game called, well, 2 games just got added like an hour ago. Bluey, the video game, Dead Island 2. I got a notification a day ago that Train Sim World 4 got added. 2 days ago, Tales of Arise. So like I'm getting these notifications like 4 days ago, Resident Evil 2 Z version got added. So like covering the Game Pass content, what's coming, what's going, because stuff leaves too. And then, talking about achievements, that's something I'm like really into and enjoy. Talking about latest releases. But then I also think it'd be fun to keep it multi-generational, so talking about the original Xbox and 360 and the One and things like that, But I mean, I was thinking about speaking of guests, like I was thinking about like really horrible original Xbox games, and I would like love to talk to somebody that worked on the game, like Pulse Racer, like back in the day, or like whoever worked on like the Toyota Yaris
3D Doritos.
Yeah, like some of these like free arcade games and things like that.
Oh,
and just like they came out so long ago. I gotta believe they'd be able to share like a couple stories from like developing what's notoriously like the worst reviewed game on the original Xbox. Just like go on the credits and just try 100%. To find people on something, or Henry can track anyone down. So.
Henry,
find the creative lead for Pulse Racer.
he's gonna come on the podcast next week and be like, guys, did you know the guy who composed the music for Pulse Racer? He actually lives a couple blocks down the street from me. I mean,
the Pulse Racer is gonna be.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, no,
we have to be careful with this topic because I don't think the statute of limitations has like fully passed on some of the stuff that we. But that's gonna be hard with Pulse Racers because it's a Japanese company. It's Jalico.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
I know they distributed. Did they make it? I don't know if they made it.
Developed and published.
Okay.
But anyways, I like that idea. Like people who work in the game space, and I think that is niche. Like that's about as niche as it gets. But there's like millions and millions of Xbox players. There's 7.6 million units sold last year. Like Xbox,
there's like 40 million Game Pass subscriptions.
Like, Xbox has a following and a foundation, and I would say we are amateur experts when it comes to the overall general topic of Xbox. I mean, we have had between all three of us, we have had and played Xboxes for the last 2 decades. From every generation, every game. We've had every Xbox experience from no Xbox Live to the first iteration of it to 360 to everything. And we've seen the games from the very first, flagship original Xbox games all the way through 361, and now we're at Series X. So I think it's a good niche for all of us, because you're right. I don't play a lot. I don't have a PS5. I don't play a lot of Switch. Henry said he plays Xbox primarily,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also the thing we all know and love, and we're like passionate about it, you know? Like there's a lot of history there too.
Right.
Okay. Do you think it's going to broad, Henry? Because Henry, you've talked a lot about the shotgun method. Do you think going multi-generational is like, just to play devil's advocate, is that like too... I love that idea, but I also love the idea of the podcast that I pitched was doing all gaming news, which now we're changing. Hands up, it probably wasn't the best idea, but you know, we didn't know, and lessons learned. But do you think Xbox multi-generational is niche enough still? Or
So I would say, as far as like getting interviews and stuff from people that worked on stuff back in the day. By the way, I have found David, the guy who has produced it. He lives in Canada.
awesome.
So shot a message on LinkedIn.
Nice. That's so crazy. Anyways, go on.
It would work if it's not like always. I think I think we need to have like a hyper focus, and we can have a broader focus as tangentially related to that. So like if we mostly talk about what's going on with Xbox stuff, yeah, bringing on David Osborne, who was the designer, one of the lead designers on Pulse Racer, the most notoriously poorly reviewed Xbox original game. That would be, I think, a solid connection there. Just throwing examples out. So I think a good combination of that can be there, right? Because I feel if we do something that is slightly out of the niche, but it's related to the point where an overwhelming majority of people that find that niche, find that extra bit, they will be interested in our niche, if that makes sense.
Right. It'll be related. Whereas like the Nintendo Switch and then a PS5 story and then this kick streamer story is like that splits people way too much.
Exactly.
And just another dot that's connected there is Game Pass. And what's on Game Pass? There's a lot of times a like original Xbox game or a 360 game that they're like, hey, this is on Game Pass. Not always, but sometimes. Or like Max Payne 2 will go on sale for $5. And just making a quick mention of that or something. But again, it's all Xbox still. So basically, anyone with an Xbox can access and be connected to all of what we are talking about. They can turn on their Xbox and be connected to the content of our podcast, whether it's through the Game Pass we're talking about, whether it's through different games that are released, whether it's through controllers, like cool controllers that come out, whether it's through the new motion backgrounds that they just dropped, all these different things. Okay, I had one last thing I wanted to bring up that I thought about, and then John kind of led me into it. We've been talking about we need to do more shorts, we need to do more reels, more promoting, get more guests, and you guys probably know where this is going. When we started this, I 100% spearheaded this. I came to you guys with the idea, and I thought between the three of us, I genuinely think we can create a good podcast, something that's compelling, something that's good. And so I went in and I was like, I want to make this as easy as possible for these guys because I know we're all busy. We all got lives. And I wanted to spearhead it. Part of it was because I know we all got stuff going on. Part of it was because I really wanted a yes from both of you because I wanted to do it so bad. So I was like, I will carry all of it because I want to do this. And the only way they're going to say no is if they just genuinely don't want to do it. And so all that to say, I want to just throw out, what could it look like, or would you guys be willing to do to basically help make this happen every week? Because I totally understand, and like I've set it up this way that it right now it just like rises and falls on me, on my schedule, on all that, and that's and I set it up that way because I wanted to make it easy for you guys to access, to jump on and be a part. Now that being said, if we really want to move it forward like we say we do, I do think like just breaking up some small responsibilities, like literally I'm talking like maybe an hour a week of like, I'm committing to emailing and trying to get like 5 guests a week. John's committing to putting together a run sheet, or Henry's committing to getting some guests, or I'm committing to editing some reels, or I'm committing to posting reels that John edits, or whatever. Do you guys have any thoughts on, and just be completely honest, on like breaking up some of the load so that we can actually move it forward? Because like here's where we're at right now, is unless there's like a really good clip, mostly just the episodes are going up. I'm not like posting a bunch of shorts. Just I just can't juggle it all between my own stuff, between my own life and everything. I just can't like edit all day every day. And so I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on what that could look like, if that's something you want to do, if it's an ask that you can't really commit to. Again, I'm easy, but I would be curious to see what you guys where your head's at with that too. And then I think we can wrap it up almost, and we'll have a good idea for what next week's episode is going to look like. But John?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to figuring something out and helping. I don't know.
You don't know what?
I don't know what specifically, but I'm open to it.
Yeah. I mean, does anything like come to mind that you're like, oh, I could easily? I mean, you gotta have an idea of what we do. I mean, all this podcast is putting together, like finding topics, putting together the run sheet. It's gonna look a little different now because we're changing it up a little bit, but doing that, like finding clips, editing those clips, posting those clips. That's pretty much it. Well, that's not true. Then editing the podcast, posting the podcast on all the platforms. So there's like, a lot of different things. I don't know if there's anything of that you're like, oh yeah, like I could jump in and carry, this part of it. And you don't like have to answer now, but
yeah, I think
Yeah, I feel like
probably
this kind
off.
of topic.
Yeah, probably off the top of my head would probably be like doing the run sheet. Would probably be easiest for me at this moment.
Yeah. Well, and
But again, we can hash all of this out like off offline, not
Yeah,
on the
that's what I was gonna
podcast.
say. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
yeah.
open to helping, obviously take this to the next level as much as I am able. If my 10-month-old would sleep through the night, I could get a lot of things done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the episode this week. So I'm okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, so we don't need to decide right now. But this is the episode. Like I purposely didn't want to hash this out offline just because I'm like, hey, I think could be a big turning point in our process and in our thing, and so I think it's cool to see that. And Henry, is there anything that you're like, oh, I'd be down to jump in here, or
I
how are you
mean, yeah,
feeling?
I would be more than happy to spread the load a bit, right? Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly because I know you're much better at editing. You're going to be taking
Mm-hmm.
care of the editing. The accounts are under your profile and name and everything, so you're going to be doing that part. John's taking the run sheet. It is kind of weird, right? That it is the way it's set up and already is set up that it is kind of a hard way to split it, you know.
What about finding guests?
I mean, I could try to do that.
But what about not even because I have really good I say really good. I have a really decent method and some good emails and follow-ups and things that I send to get guests. But even just doing the research of you sending me, hey, here's Jeff so and so. He worked on this game. This is what he did. Here's his email. Boom, and then that gives me, because when I do that, I have to go find all that stuff. Getting a hold of different people is
Just like getting leads for
yeah, I
Dave to
guess it's
follow up on.
leads, and then I can just sweet, copy paste the email, adjust it, invite them onto the pod, start that conversation. Even that, because you're good at finding things. That's the thing. I feel like you can you can find people and find info. I don't know how you feel about that, but even just that is would be it would help us so much getting guests, right? And that'll be a huge part of, I think, our growth as a podcast, because getting those guests are huge.
Yeah, I can do stuff like that. Definitely.
We don't need their address.
Oh, that's the fun part.
Yeah, but then if I think that's great, and if John puts together a run sheet and sends it to me, and then I can, basically make any changes, or essentially, I think it's good to have still one person as a point person, right? But just have John put it together, and then shoot it to me, shoot it to us, and then we can just, if there's something glaring, oh, we're not going to talk about this huge game that dropped, or what about this, or I'm just hey, I want to throw this in this week, then then that's that. But him doing that and you helping us continually pursue guests, that leaves me time to do the edit and the clips, because I
Right.
won't be spending time doing others. So I think that could be legit.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm actually pretty excited about the new direction. So I think we should go for it. All that to say, as we wrap up, I think we should go for it. I think the idea of niching down is even more is good. I think a Xbox podcast that talks about Xbox news has a Game Pass segment, talks about latest releases, and is for the Xbox consumer and no one else is good. I think I like the idea of it being multi-generational with a focus on current gen, but if something comes up about an original Xbox game, we speak to it, all that. Like this week is Battlefront 2 Classic is releasing. 64 player, like that's so sick. And there's a Borderlands live action movie coming out, which is Borderlands is like, that's Xbox, just a classic game. Elden Ring DLC, right? This is all right up our alley. So, and then guests. Cool.
Yeah, I think so.
You guys happy with that? I say we give it a I don't know, 10 episode run. We just started season 2 technically. And so I think for this season we give this a shot. I to be totally honest, I was very unsure even when we started this conversation yesterday, and I was just like, I just don't know, man. Like I don't know what we would do. I don't know where we would go, but I'm looking at this right now in our notes, and I like the idea of it being Xbox.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be the smartest move. Something that all of us, like I said, all of us are involved and invested into. So
Yeah. All right. If you made it this far in the podcast, thanks for listening. And next week, it's gonna be a little different, and our intro will be a little different, and we'll have more of an Xbox focus. And the hope is that this podcast will be the greatest Xbox podcast in the world. I want it to grow bigger than the official Xbox podcast. Just so we're on the record. I've looked at all the Xbox podcasts. It's nothing that we couldn't blow out of the water. Let's be very real. I actually believe that. Like, I think that so many of those are not in touch with Xbox fans, which is why they don't do as well as they could. Yes, they have the names. Yes, they have the production. But I actually do think that we are just so much more, maybe it's total arrogance, but I think we're so much more in the trenches, and we're so much more tapped in to what and who an Xbox gamer really is, compared to suits and people who just hop on to a set and talk about Xbox for a living. That's just my honest opinion, maybe controversial. I think Phil is like the only suit who actually is a gamer, but I think there's a lot of them who are not. So, anyways, well, I'm excited. I'm grateful that you guys brought your ideas and we landed here, because I wasn't sure, to be honest. I was like, well, maybe we need to just pause and figure it out. But I actually really like this direction.
Nice.
yeah,
Sweet. All right. That's the pod. Next week, we're focusing on Xbox. So all you Switch players, PC Master Race, and PS4 5 fanboys, it's time for you to leave. Actually, just come to the light side. You know you want to. All right, GG's, guys.
GG's.
GG's.